I mean, we are net importers of silver. Um, and, you look at Mexico and their new administration is nationalizing a lot of their assets too, like strategic assets. And there's rumors that they want to nationalize their silver assets. They've had enough of being plundered by the rest of the world, pillaged. Um, there's a good chance that they just stop exporting silver, period. You look at the next, the number three, which is Peru.
Peru, yeah.
And China just built, I believe, a deep water port there for them and trying to, bring them into the Belt Road type of deal. And um, they're going around Peru and buying up, Sean Kun has told me that our mutual friend that they're buying up all the doré and concentrate from the miners directly in Peru and Mexico. In fact, Vince Lancy, his comment was the Chinese for years have been buying silver from Mexico before it's even called silver, before it's even pulled out of the ground. In other words, they're buying doré. So they buy all of the doré and the concentrate, which would be the byproduct of the mining. It's a sludge. And the doré is the very, very crudely refined bar that may be 30% silver. The rest of it's all the other shit that they put together and they send it in for pure refining. Well, they're paying double what the West will, sending it back to China and refining it as the second largest producer in the world. So the first is Mexico, the second is China, the third is Peru. So
Right.
China's buying directly from Peru and Mexico, the number one and three supplier, doré and concentrate. They're probably buying refined stuff too. I'm sure they're buying stuff everywhere. So you're getting to a point where this race for
Yep.
commodities is accelerating. And the
Yeah.
point that you make is very, very valid and very quickly could shut off. You start to see tariffs on this kind of stuff. You wonder how high could silver go
I mean,
in an environment where the LBMA can't deliver because they're 8 weeks delayed and
yeah.
trading 15 times the float every day. And then you see this kind of stuff. It's the word asymmetrical, Jay. Asymmetrical means lowest downside, highest upside. And I don't think there's an asset on the planet and all the silver work you've done to the community for so long will be rewarded. It's going to go higher, and your ability to do it and do it with privacy outside the system is being
Mm,
compromised by the day.
and harder to
That
get
they're
too.
coming in. They're coming in on your privacy, and they'll know everything about you, know your transaction, not just know your client and your anti-money laundering. Did you get it legitimately, and have you paid your taxes on it? But by the way, um, what are you buying? And we'll be able to track that if all of a sudden they say, all of these institutions you work with are like, we are no longer offering standard checking accounts. It's a stablecoin account, and it's very, very convenient for you. And your check will clear in 7 seconds. Instead of it being a check, it's a stable. It's like Venmo or Zelle.
Yeah. Yeah.
Everything's going to be like that, and it's going to
Yep.
be done under the name of convenience.
Yep.
But that convenience will have just lopped off
Yep.
all privacy that you ever had with cash.
Right.
Think of every game you've ever played. I mean, every game you've ever played. In almost every game, the object is to misdirect the opponent. If you're playing basketball, it's the no look pass. There's plays in football called misdirection. That's a handoff where the whole line goes this way, or a screen pass where everyone goes this way, but the one guy sneaks out to the other side to the flat and he's wide open because the play is over here, but that one guy's over there. Misdirection. Think of checker or chess.
I
Chess.
love chess. I play chess every day. I'm
Well,
addicted to chess.
you flank one side of the king with and then you bring around the queen on the other side. You're misdirecting, right? You're thinking
Yeah.
steps
Four
ahead, and
steps ahead. Yeah.
misdirection. I've talked about misdirection forever. The art of war, beating your opponent without throwing a punch. This type of rhetoric is taught everywhere. It's taught at West Point and CIA that they make you read the art of war. And so when you talk about, Bill Belichick uses it to formulate game theory, and it's as I mentioned, it's taught in most law schools on formulating arguments and business schools and corporate hierarchy and all this stuff. But misdirection, that's it's everywhere, and so that's why they misdirect the price of gold and silver, and they misdirect or they suppress everything through misdirection of price and of narrative. And that's why so they
Yes.
lower the price, just like he did. Speak through rhetoric, lower the price, misdirect the public. Oh shit, well, he doesn't like it and it's going down. And then, hey guys, load up now.
Boom.
Everyone's not looking. But that's what they do. And
Yep.
that's what you have to understand. You have your gut and your eyes speak to each other, and your eyes are saying to your gut, who are you going to believe, yourself or your lying eyes? And
Mm.
so, is it your eyes that are lying to you, or your gut who's telling you, something's not right with this? And that's the part that takes takes a little discipline, and but
Yeah.
you see it over and over and over again, whether it be Jamie Dimon, whether it be the way the market moves, whether it be the central banks, everything. And the fact is that the media doesn't give us any ability these days to do anything, discerning. We have to listen to guys like you and me to try and find what the
Yeah.
real news is and then go from there. Those aren't tariffs, those are sanctions. A tariff supports the manufacturing industry. That isn't a tariff, that's a sanction. That's what brings them together. They had like 9 or 10 other partner countries that have joined,
Yeah, since.
Indonesia, Vietnam, and whatnot. Their main focus was a new payment platform. This is BRICS Bridge. It settles in
Right.
7 seconds,
What about the
and
unit?
outside of SWIFT interference. The unit, I believe what they're doing with the unit. Here's my thought on the unit. I believe so. Shanghai Metals Associated, the Shanghai Metals Market, opened up this. They said we're expanding all of our vaults through multi-jurisdictional facilities throughout the Belt Road, and starting with Hong Kong, and then Saudi Arabia, and then all throughout Asia and Africa. And they're doing that, and then they said now yuan is immediately convertible into gold. So think of the unit. The unit was 60% currency of the BRICS
Yep.
plus nations, 40% gold back. So instead, because I think they're waiting Trump out because of his
Makes
threats,
sense.
and you got Saudi Arabia and India straddling relations and this and that. And so instead, what China is doing is fine, we'll do this and they can't fuck with us. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to start by building out all of this infrastructure, the skeletal system of the unit, which was going to be 40% gold back deliverable. Remember, Dilma Rousseff, the former president of Brazil and the head of the New Development Bank, the BRICS New Development Bank, said, we've agreed to it in principle. We're going to do
Mm.
this. So after all the pushback and the BIS pulling out, it used to be called M Bridge. Now it's called the Bridge
Yeah,
because M
Project
Bridge,
Enbridge. Yeah.
the BIS pulled out at the 12th hour. After it was already, so the BIS Innovation Hub helped design or develop and integrate this technology to the West. It's Chinese technology, China, Hong Kong, Thailand, UAE. Saudi Arabia became the fifth full participant at the end. So those 5 countries, in coordination with the BIS Innovation Hub, which is a Western institution, they pull out at the 12th hour. It's espionage. It's James Bond. And the,
Mm.
the guy, Augustus Carstens, this fat guy who looks like Augustus from Willy Wonka growing up, said, well, we can't be part of any technology that allows countries to sidestep Western sanctions. That's as if they just then realized that Russia was the iron bricks after 4 years of developing it, and they pulled out. So it pissed them off. And they now call it the bridge. And they've already, as I mentioned, they've already signed up the 11 countries in Southeast Asia, the 5 countries in the Middle East, and now we're integrating it into the Belt Road. It's going to be massively expansive. And so I believe,
Mm.
and then the settlement is the gold that will be not only the BRICS metals exchange, the new Moscow exchange, the new exchange in Singapore, all of these exchanges that aren't directly tied to the Shanghai Metals Exchange, along with their expansion in multi jurisdictional hubs. And then they said, as of right now, you can take your yuan and switch it into gold in yuan right now. You do not have to convert to dollars. So Saudi
Yeah.
Arabia buys oil from China, not in dollars, or the other way around. China buys from Saudi Arabia in yuan, not in dollars, and Saudi Arabia switches it to gold. Soon they'll be able to take that gold right out of the vault, the Shanghai vault, that will be in Saudi Arabia, audited by the Saudis, et cetera. And soon it'll be all throughout the ecosystem, multi-jurisdictional. Because what happened to Venezuela, the Bank of England? Can we have our gold back? No, go kiss my ass. No, goodbye. And so that didn't work well for Venezuela. So you have it in multi-jurisdictional vaults, so it's not in one place. And this is the rails of the new unit system. So China sets it up under the yuan, and internationalizing the yuan for trade, which they want to do. And they don't want to be the world reserve currency. They know they will hollow out their manufacturing base just the way that we did, because you cannot have a weak, your currency always has to be stronger than everyone else's to be the world reserve, because you cannot give them enough currency to transact if it's the world reserve just through trade alone. So they have to
Yeah.
sell their currency to buy your currency to do business. It pushes your currency up, their currency down, and that's why you send manufacturing to the cheap currency, because you can do it much less for much less money. So they don't want that. Gold will be the reserve. But this will be the rails that will allow all of these countries to trade in 7 seconds outside of SWIFT interference at a 98% reduction in costs using the bridge technology. So Saudi trades their oil to China for digital yuan, immediately converts it into gold. China buys corn from Brazil, immediately convert that into gold. Brazil buys, oil from Saudi Arabia. Their currency goes to Saudi. We don't really want that currency. Well, we will immediately convert it into gold. So the point of it is that it's the rails. Now Trump's gone, and they just say, screw it. We're now bringing the unit in, and all of these countries that have now aligned with us. You're talking the majority of human population. If you bring in the Belt Road, which they are now saying, Bricks Bay and Bricks Bridge are being integrated into the Belt Road, along with the Shanghai Cooperation Organization and the Eurasian Economic Union. We got the 11 Asian countries, the 5 Middle East. You have the majority of the world, and the majority of the commodities, and the majority of the rare earths, and the majority of the refining of the rare earths, and the majority of the manufacturing of the world, and the majority of the on-sea and cross-land trade routes, and 3 of the 4 largest. Do you see where we're going? This is nothing to say, yeah, bullshit, it's not big enough.
Right.
Everyone said it's not big enough, and maybe it isn't big enough, but you open it up to countries that are directly aligned with the BRICS, with great symmetry, but not part of it, like the Belt Road, etc. Whoa, that's a whole different animal altogether. So yes, I think that things are changing in a very, very, very big way.
Wow.
And I think it's happening. But so to your point, to the unit, they'll build the rails, they'll build the skeletal system, that being the vaulting system and multi-jurisdictional vaults. The bridge technology already works. Saudi Arabia can now, for all the Middle Eastern countries, they can start trading their oil and their natural gas and their resources with other countries across this deal and switch to gold and back and forth. And the SWIFT won't even know about it, because the reason that the U.S. knows how much business is being done, elsewhere, is because ultimately that things have to go back and forth through the SWIFT system to go into dollars.
Right.
If you're never touching the SWIFT system or going in and out of dollars, no one's going to know shit. That's exactly right. And if the way it is now, if Saudi Arabia wanted to trade with China, well, China has to convert to dollars to buy oil from Saudi Arabia, and then the oil gets sent back. But if Saudi Arabia wants to buy something from China, they have to convert to dollars, and then convert to yuan from the dollars, and the whole thing is just crazy. There's all these conversions through intermediary banks, cost money, cost time, and now you just go bang, bang, and done in 7 seconds.
Wow.
With no SWIFT interference, can't be kicked out, can't be sanctioned. Go ahead, sanction me. What do I care? And we're not there yet. And I think if they brought the unit in right now, it would freak Trump out. And just to save face, he would start doing stupid things. So instead, the Chinese do it and say, we're going to slowly, industrialize and internationalize the yuan and our Shanghai Metals Exchange. And then it's the rails and the skeletal system to the M-Bridge or to the unit technology. I think I do. And I'm taking all of this from their actions and their comments. Judy Shelton's, Scott Bessent's, the fact we become net importers. All of the things that I see, what's happening with the Belt Road, what's happening with the expansion of the yuan and the Shanghai Metals Exchange. And you take it all together. And that's, if I have one ability besides being really hardworking, it's that I take all of these pieces and I find a common thread of commonality. I mean, a thread of commonality. And I'm like, yeah, well, that's cool. That's cool. But what if they were to get, holy shit, you put that together and oh my God. And then, I mean, so you, in and of themselves, all of these things are significant. Put them together with a motivation and a commonality of a singularity of thought. And you can see how, and that's been my success on saying all this stuff for the past 5 years, a lot of which has come true because it's right there. The crumbs are there. It's whether or not you have the courage to connect them and say it publicly.
Gold and silver have once again captured the spotlight as America teeters on the edge of unprecedented financial and political instability. With Donald Trump's recent surge in polling numbers despite multiple legal challenges, and the U.S. economy walking a tightrope of inflation, rate uncertainty, and record-breaking debt levels, it has become abundantly clear that the fiat system, rooted in endless money printing and blind trust, is broken. Gold and silver are not just alternative investments anymore. They are lifeboats in a storm of economic and institutional collapse. Every fiat currency in history has eventually failed. The US dollar, once backed by gold, now floats on the whims of policymakers and central bankers. The Federal Reserve claims to fight inflation, yet it created the very problem with years of near-zero interest rates and trillions in stimulus. And now, with CPI inflation numbers still sticky and consumer sentiment in freefall, they've cornered themselves into a lose-lose situation. Raise rates and tank the economy, or ease and ignite another inflation wave. Either way, fiat suffers. But physical gold and silver, finite, real, and time-tested, thrive. In the last few weeks, silver has quietly outperformed many other assets, pushing past key resistance levels while being largely ignored by the mainstream media. Gold, too, is testing all-time highs amid global central bank accumulation. Why are nations like China, Russia, and even Poland buying tons of gold while telling their citizens to hold cash? Because they know what's coming. They know the dollar is losing its dominance and that the next financial system won't be built on paper IOUs. It will be anchored to something real. Trump's return to the headlines isn't just about politics. It's about economic sentiment. His recent statements slamming the Federal Reserve and calling for a return to sound money are echoing louder than ever. Trump understands that Americans are losing faith in the institutions that manage their money. Confidence in the Fed is near all-time lows. The Treasury is issuing debt at a breakneck pace. Social Security is on track to go bankrupt. Meanwhile, the stock market continues to float on speculation, artificially supported by Fed jawboning and tech hype. But beneath the surface, cracks are forming, young investors are waking up. They're beginning to see the trap. Save in dollars, and you're guaranteed to lose purchasing power. Trust in stocks and crypto, and you're subject to manipulation and regulatory whims. The only assets with a 5,000-year track record of preserving wealth through every war, recession, and regime change are gold and silver. And right now, silver is arguably the most undervalued strategic asset on Earth. Not only is it a monetary metal, but it's also essential in solar panels, electric vehicles, and industrial applications. The supply is shrinking while demand is surging. This is not a speculative narrative. It's a supply chain reality. Meanwhile, America is sleepwalking into another debt crisis. With over $34 trillion in national debt and interest payments now rivaling military spending, the writing is on the wall. The government has no plan to pay it off. The only tool they have left is inflation. Silent theft through currency debasement. If you're holding dollars, you're the victim. Every printed dollar makes your savings weaker. Every stimulus check, every bailout, every new government program funded by the printing press, it's a transfer of your wealth to the state. Look at the banks. Regional banking stress has returned, and big names are warning of a new wave of collapses. If even one major institution falls, a domino effect could ensue. And with FDIC reserves under pressure and trust in banks declining, people are beginning to ask serious questions. What happens to my savings if the system locks up? If you can't hold it, you don't own it, and that's why physical metals are making a comeback. Gold and silver require no counterparty. They cannot be hacked, frozen, or inflated away. They don't rely on government promises or Wall Street gymnastics. In times of war, regime change, or collapse, like the world is inching toward now, they are the final fallback. Just this week, Trump warned that America is closer than ever to losing the dollar as the world reserve currency. That's not alarmism, it's fact. The BRICS nations are actively developing a gold-backed trading currency, and the world is watching. The petrodollar era is ending, and with it, the dollar's dominance. Gold and silver will outlive fiat. They have outlived every empire that thought it could print its way to prosperity, and they will outlive this one too. While Wall Street distracts you with AI stocks and debt-fueled bubbles, the smart money is quietly accumulating hard assets. If the monetary system resets, and history shows it always does, those holding metals will have purchasing power while everyone else scrambles for crumbs.